Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of The Hustle with Chude with Ebuka. Yes, we're here going to be talking about the legal profession, but not in the way you think we're going to be talking about it. Looking at lawyers who find it really easy or comfortable to delve away from the industry and blend into other sectors of work and career. Chude is here. How are you doing, Chude?
I'm fine.
Is this weird that you are not the one?
It's always weird. Even though I've done it a couple of times,
Yes.
it's always weird. But it's a good thing.
Yes.
It's a great thing.
So this is a very interesting conversation we're about to have. And we're going to be talking to a couple of people who are, do I call them lawyers?
Lawyers.
Who studied law.
Well,
whichever way you want to look at
lawyers.
it, and have delved into other fields.
Yeah.
What do you want to get out of this? Why did they choose to study law? Why did
Yes.
they decide to leave the profession?
Yeah.
What does the law still do for them, I guess?
I guess that's it. But also to give younger people who are watching the show a sense of where they are going with law if they are studying it, or people who are trying to make career choices. Because there's a lot of young people who enter into law with a lot of conceptions. I don't want to call them misconceptions because a lot of ideas. This will change my life. And then when you go to MBA conference, the lawyers have a different, law students and lawyers have different ideas of what this thing is. Yes. And so for this, that's why it's also a mix. Most of them have not been practicing recently, save for, I think, one. So it's to have a conversation, what is the reality of living life as a lawyer, especially because law, engineering, and medicine are still the ultimate for Nigerian parents of a generation. So it's to have a realistic conversation for a course, a field that is so important. Why did we do it? And how is life with it now? Does your life really change when you study law, or is it just a well-sold, just like,
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think that's a good way to segue into getting the guests here. Can't wait to get into this. Those people who are going to be here today are huge fans of them. Let's pick their brains when we come back.
Fun fact I was going to mention, just occurred to me as we were talking. Fun fact, the first time I ever met you, it was an interview. Do you remember?
Yes.
Yes. And it was a Big Brother interview. I just remember that now. That's weird. The first time,
And I remember telling you I was a fan of the feature.
Yes.
2006.
2006. But 2006. we're extremely young then.
We were
very young.
Children. Don't go away. Welcome back. The Hustle with Chude is here, and the pretend lawyers are here. I couldn't wait to say that.
The could have been, should have been.
Emodi, Obi Asika, and Lolo. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having us. Nice to be here.
Great conversation. I feel like a lot of us have had this sort of conversations off air or informally because we know why. We do what we do. But I just want to go around quickly. Because whenever people ask me, so why did you study that? What was it that even made you go into this since you're not, practicing? And it's very interesting for me because I always go back to the fact that, guidance counseling is one of the biggest voids, in our educational system here, but that's another topic. I finished secondary school, I had no idea what I was going to do. Still at that stage. And then I said, okay, first of all, I don't know maths. I needed something that wouldn't let me into anywhere else or anywhere. But I was also conscious of wanting a title, barrister. And, law just sounded interesting to me. That was it. That was literally why I went to study law. I had no interest in the course.
Wow.
I had nobody telling me why I needed to study it. But I kind of fell in love with it when I studied it, and it's evolved to where we are now, which is what we're going to go into later. But just very quickly, what made you study law? Let's just go.
Okay.
As quickly as you can.
Thank you. I like the promise you made. When we finished secondary school, like me, because I've always talked, I call myself a child of the tube because TV literally raised me. That's where I learned to speak English, so many things about me. So everybody just assumed that because I talk a lot, that would be the fit for me. So it wasn't even a choice I made for myself. It was a choice made for me. The only thing I was required to do was pass WAEC and pass JAM. I didn't even fill my JAM form. I don't know if there was a place to sign it.
So this family that did
Yes, my sisters put law, and that's how I found myself studying law, basically. So it wasn't really about what I liked. So half of the time in school, I just coasted because I can be an average student, but maybe if I really enjoyed it, I could have pushed beyond the average. So I was just okay, you know, coasting and just following and do what everybody does.
And cramming when you
And
get to
cramming when I need to cram and just do my thing. I think that's how I just, you know, my own story basically.
Mine was a bit different. No, I mean, I came out of school and I took a gap year. And I was thinking about going to university in the States. And the real reason I didn't go to university in the States was I'd worked out that you couldn't get a professional degree in the first degree in the States. So I'm like, man, if I go to the States, I have to do first degree, then I go to another thing. And
Like
about,
7, 8
I was like 7 years, man. I'm like, no, I'm trying to get to real life. So that was really my whole thing. And so I was like, okay, stay in England. If you stay in England, law, economics. So I got into like 5 universities for law, economics. And I got into Bristol for economics. But I was thinking, my entire soccer team from my school, out of 11 of which I was captain, 8 were going to Bristol. So I was like, if I go to Bristol, I'm just going to stay in my same circle I've already been in for 10 years. But at Warwick, all the Nigerians are there at Warwick, and I really didn't know any Nigerians. So I said, look, let me just go to Warwick and meet Nigerians. That was actually it, because I was intense that I was, no, I'm telling you. That's how I studied law.
That's an interesting.
Very interesting.
You know?
For me, I always wanted to study law. So as a child,
Finally, somebody.
it wasn't just law. So I wanted to study law, and I wanted to be a TV presenter at the same time. And I didn't know how I was going to be able to marry both. And I'd been told several times that you have to choose one or the other. You can't have both. And when I was done with my secondary school, I was so confused. I had my JAMB form. I didn't know what to feel. When I think there's a part of me that also studied law to fulfill my father's subtle childhood wish, because my father always used to call me Barrister Ibama, lawyer Ibama, because I used to argue a lot. And my father passed. So I feel like there's a subtle part of me that did that to honor him, but I also knew that I wanted to be a lawyer and a TV presenter. So when I was confused and I didn't know what to do, my mom then says, you know what? You can actually be a TV presenter without going to get the degree in mass communication. How about you go do law? You can't rehearse to be a lawyer, right? Go do law, come out, and then if you decide that you want to practice law, fine. But if you decide you want to pursue a career on TV, go ahead and do that. And that's exactly what I did. So I went, did law, came out. At the time I was in law school, I thought, nah, this law school is too hard. I have to practice law. My law can't just waste. But then life happened. I came out and I found myself on TV. So, yeah.
If we're going to talk about law school.
It's a different matter. So, I feel I'm disappointing people because I wish the next person actually wanted to study law, but we are back to sender. Because what it was, I mean, my grandfather was a lawyer, and so my parents always wanted me to study law. Because they would say when you read constitutional law, one of the first cases you would read is John versus Ambrose Ali.
Yeah.
And so they thought it was I think my family made that a really big deal. And I said, to be honest, if you got excited, but I said I wasn't going to study law. But when I came out, I wanted to do mass comm. And then my parents said, so they knew the way to get me to do it. So they sat down at a round table in the house. I can never forget, and said, you know what? You can be a journalist without studying mass comm, but you can't be a lawyer without studying law.
Like my mama.
Yeah.
So give yourself options. Do you understand? So study law, and then you can go out and practice journalism. And if it does you so much, then you can have a master's in journalism because you can do that. And I just thought, okay, this is a pretty reasonable argument, and that's how I entered into torture.
Why did you want to study law? Did you love the law?
Yes,
or
I did.
Did you just, oh, great.
Oh,
yes, I
finally!
Yes, I did.
Why?
I mean, I wasn't forced to study law. I just, so like I think I always say this every time whenever I'm asked why did I decide to study law. So I grew up in the Magege area of Lagos with my parents. And so I think one time we're coming back from home and I think a bike man hit someone. And it became more of jungle justice, you know, they all just rattled him up and then, you know, they did their normal thing, you know, and it just felt like it was a normalcy for most people, you know. So then I was like, this isn't normal, you know, the way we always see some things that are not, just like seeing a policeman, you know, carry like gun on the road seems normal to most people here.
Shouldn't
you know?
be.
So I'm like, this shouldn't be normal. And then I told my dad I studied law. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, you want to study law? Are you sure? So it felt like I was doing something wrong by saying that. He kept asking, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. So okay, fine. You know, you go and study law. And then luckily enough for me, when I was done with my secondary school, they opened a university in my hometown, Ekiti, Afebola University, and they're like, oh yeah, sure. I mean, we'll just find a way to make sure you're good. I'm like, no, that's not where I want to study law. This is like 1 year, you know, upon establishment, and I'm like, fine, you just go there, try it, and then see. Because they didn't even think I was going to, you know, pull through to the end, you know, and then I did it, and you know, they were pretty much super proud, and they're always shouting the law. So,
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
So,
Yeah,
you've also come out and you are still sort of practicing law.
Yes, I am.
Even if you're an influencer and you do things around, you know, the
Yes, I am.
entertainment circle. So, how's that working?
So the good thing about my practice area is I've been able to find some sort of equilibrium, right? So I run a law firm, which is basically a startup advisory law firm for creatives, right? So either you're an influencer, you're an artist, you're a producer, whatever it is, you know, you're an entrepreneur in general, you know. So we're able to help you, you know, ensure you have compliance when it comes to, you know, corporate areas, you know, taxations and every other thing necessary to help, you know, protect you being a startup or a creative. So that's the best part of my area of practice, you know. So I've been able to.
That's very interesting because I mean, you were talking earlier back in the day about how, you know, the law is different now from what it was in 1990, even with regards to fields you can go into. And it's interesting because the NBA president, when he was running for office, had mentioned that one of the things he wants to change is this sort of heavy emphasis on litigation. You know, with the profession, it's like if you're not you are not a lawyer. You know, even with becoming a senior advocate, it's almost impossible if you're a corporate lawyer to ever become one. And it's like, why? I mean,
And even academic.
yeah, if you're an academic, you have to have written a gazillion books, and it's almost like an honor. Okay, take, you know. So that also scares people away, doesn't it? From wanting to be a lawyer.
For me, I think that what he's just talked about is really important.
Yeah.
And if you look at sort of range and diversity of options, if you were looking at 1990, there was nothing like technology and law. There was nothing like sports and law. There was nothing like marketing and law. There was nothing in business law. There was just literally law, right? Now, if you really look at it, in almost every major university globally, there are multiple streams of things you can do that are around the law, either as an undergraduate or as a graduate, and you really specialize. And these are paying premium.
Specializations are great.
Premium level around technology, around fintech, around sports, around business, around all sorts of things. And what you see in Nigeria a lot of times is it's like as if we repress ourselves from our opportunities. Because we're still locked into the sort of, it's kind of like this by road system. It's like somebody told you this is how it's supposed to be.
And you don't question it.
You haven't actually understood that what you're supposed to do is to fit this thing to your own society.
Would it have changed your perception of the law if you had these things then?
100%.
Would you have studied? Would you have practiced?
No, I would have set up a firm in 1990 doing sports, media, and entertainment as its focus, and maybe technology.
Yeah.
So we'd be doing 31 years by now.
Yeah.
Whereas now, today, all the biggest firms in Nigeria, or a lot of times, I talk to a lot of them about how can we improve our creative industries practice. Everybody in the last 3 years is either technology, fintech, creative industries, where we have become the experts over 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to be very discouraged by a lot of things. They'll tell you as a lawyer, you know, the profession is a very noble profession, it's a very subtle profession. You have to wear white and black. You can't advertise, you can't, you know, there's so many things that held us down. I remember when I first started delving into entertainment and someone said, how can you leave a noble profession to go and be doing whatever it is you're doing in the entertainment industry? Because it's like, as a lawyer, you can't be allowed to do all these things. But I'm really glad that the narrative is starting to change, even though some people are still holding very tightly to it.
Even the core litigation we're talking about, if you look at a lot of corporate firms, I'm beginning to see that even litigation is sitting back. Very few firms are really core litigators because now half of the lawyers are property lawyers. Just drafting of document that now is like any lay person that study a document can do. So even the practice of law is important because there's something that comes with it to be able to say that you are a lawyer, being able to, you know, put your case across. Because these millennials want to do things differently. And I know I like that. The only thing I want to do is to continually find a bridge. We can't completely go digital because there's so much law, there's so much about law and documentation and you know that physical thing. And in this country that we are in, we're still lacking in how to get data and information. So if we bridge straight to their side, that means we're going to be losing a lot of things that are still analog. If we want to go with
Okay.
and say that
Were you disagreeing as well?
that we can actually be fully digital.
While we're still doing
It's actually procedural,
VPN,
you know. It's
No,
not.
even Lin and Vivian is actually all digital. So the issue about it is the only way you can scale this country is digital. You can't do it with the analog side. You cannot carry these physical files and documentations. We should not be having a situation where the Federal High Court burnt and then the files are gone and you're saying you don't have the files.
That's like ideal.
No, it's not ideal. It is about, actually, it's about having a strategy and a policy and a focus. And if Nigeria had one, we wouldn't be talking about it at all.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We do
But that's
not
not Nigerian government, that's
invest.
the profession.
We do not invest in that. I know what it took Lagos State to say they wanted to, bridge that gap of, you can now file your documents. Half of the time you do it, it's still so tedious. Your file still,
Which is the ease of doing business.
exactly, which is the ease of doing business. But it's not easy for lawyers. Half of the time you would try to do digital, but you will still have to go physically to the court to still file documents.
Yes.
So you're just wondering that why are we not investing in what is going to keep us, in the new century? I should be able to type a law citation. We can get some, but the core ones are still not there.
Okay. So you are practicing?
Yes, I am. Okay, so it's not like an overnight shift, from the analog to digital part of it. So I feel like, say 20 years ago, what we see as technology now isn't what it was as at then. So over time, there would be, some sort of shift gradually. If you look at, say, the land registry now, it used to be a mess. I mean, it's still a mess to an extent. I was gonna say, So like it's still like a mess. But there's been some sort of change, over the last couple of years. Now you can do like your search online. Say, okay, you have a survey plan of the property. You can actually check to see, what kind of root of title this particular property has. So it's not going to happen, overnight, because we've been doing this for the longest, time. If they're going to now make everything sort of digital, look at CAC, for example. Now you can file CAC, you can do like name search, register, do almost everything. Even if you're not a lawyer, if you're like verified on CAC's website, you can register a company.
So I want to talk about inclusion.
Yeah.
And still talking about the MBA, I don't know why he keeps coming to mind, because he probably had one of the most overwhelming support across board.
Definitely.
In the history of the MBA election. The current MBA president, Apata, who he was trending on Twitter. Even non-lawyers were talking about him, excited, And then one of his biggest dreams, I don't know if he's going to be able to achieve it, because the 2-year term, I believe, is to get lawyers who are not practicing into the NBA to sort of, bring in, because there's just too much. The perception of what the law profession is very widely known, and the facts of what it is.
He already started.
Is it something you think makes sense, where you, Chude, now, who does not care about the legal profession, are doing your thing successfully in media, would want to come into the Nigerian Bar Association and share? Is there anything there for you?
Well, first, so that I just want to name drop and say that he's also my name.
And he's also my friend.
Just by the way, even though he was
yes.
doing me a favor, he's a nice guy, he's a great person. I want to just plug him in. To be honest, well, there's some things I'm like, why are we even fighting for it? I don't actually.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like yes, because so law in Nigeria gets a lot of its prestige from exclusivity.
Yes.
Yeah?
Which is my point.
Yes, but I think that it's what it gains in prestige, it loses in substance. Yeah, which is when you exclude, because most of us if I can dare to speak for a lot of people, most of us who left the law left because it was stifling, and we didn't see a pathway to achieving any meaningful dream if we stuck with the law. That means that you are losing diversity, perspective, wisdom. You are losing a lot of things. Now, what happens when the institution keeps those things inside? Are people's livelihoods going to improve? Is the texture of law as its practice going to improve? Will the workplaces improve? Will we develop new sections of law quickly? George told me today pushing the business law section. It was like
He's like, what is this thing initially?
Section.
Yeah.
How can business law be sexy?
He was the cool kid.
If not because it's just new. It was a cool kid, business law. But because it was just new and innovative and he was pushing it, that's how come it was sexy. Imagine if more minds, more color were not even brought back or were kept in. You know, I think that would have had, because the practice of law is overwhelmingly defined by poverty.
Try.
It is. Forget the top guy.
That is gospel.
I went to the, I was invited, they kept inviting me to speak at the MBA conference. I appreciate it's always good for the CV and for citations. But when I went there, 2 times I've gone there, I've said this, I've said it. And to their benefit, nobody, even the senior people, haven't argued or been upset by it. I'm like, down the line, if this income inequality we are talking about, you know, it's the law in Nigeria is the bastion of it. Yeah. And I wonder and it's about wealth creation, what is the thing that has enabled, that has constricted the flow of energy and wealth within this profession? Yeah. And with bringing people whose jobs are to innovate and think into that space, would they have helped in expanding it?
I mean, I'm just thinking of what creative minds could do there.
I agree with you.
Yeah, go on.
One of the most important lessons life has taught me is never to make final conclusions about people or situations when I haven't walked their shoes.
For a profession that is so hard to evolve, do you think it has done well in that space? I mean, we've had female judges, we've had female justices of the Supreme Court, we have
female chief judge.
Yeah, we've had successful female lawyers. But when you look at the law profession, with your even experience with school and law school and just what you know?
I think that we still have some work to be done. I mean, it was exciting when we were seeing female chief judge, we're seeing a lot of women rising to influential positions in the legal space, but there's still a lot of work that has to be done. I would speak as a woman, my experience going through school, there were some challenges that I faced.
That were uniquely because you were a woman?
Yes, because I was a woman, one of which was sexual harassment. There's still a lot of sexual harassment. There's still situations where I have female friends who are practicing that will tell you that they're being grossly underpaid. Now, the arguments might be, oh no, you're being underpaid. I think we still have to have that conversation about remuneration for young lawyers. No, it's a very important conversation.
Honestly, gospel truth is one of the reasons why I left.
Yes, exactly.
I don't even hide about it.
So yeah, that's some of the things.
You pay nonsense.
Yeah. Oh
gosh.
I
saw like
pay less than the driver.
I'll tell you mine.
We would have that conversation. We should, but I think that there's still. I experienced sexual harassment in school. I'm excited about this new age. I was wondering if I was in school today, what happened to me then? Would it happen to me today?
Where people are able to speak up.
Where I'm able to call him out. Or probably record the conversation and put him on social media, put him on blast. But there are still women that are still being sexually harassed. Definitely. So I feel that there's still so much work that we need to do. We're making progress, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
For me as a woman, I think of myself as genderless. I like to think that it's more about what I can offer as a human. I don't really look at myself usually like, oh, it's a woman thing. Right now, we've been able to break every limit. We've shattered every ceiling. We've proved to everybody that a woman's intellectual capacity can equal a man and unfortunately surpass some. And a lot of lawyers, a lot of women have done that. And they're still doing that.
Did you ever find any hindrances to your time?
For me, we need to know that a woman's peculiarity is our peculiarity. And no matter how we look at it, we're going to always be different from men. Women have been multitaskers for years. When I was in school, I had people that were married with children, studying law at that time. Yes.
Shout out Malatina.
The pocket money, man.
You can imagine. Yes. So you can imagine what it is like to be a married person studying law. Of course, there will be a lot of challenges that surround your life. And whether people like it or not, we're hormonals. We're women that our hormones control our lives. Yeah. Our periods can set us off and set us out, give us moods. But men don't experience some of these unique things that happen to women. Yeah. We're still sexually harassed. We're still marginalized. I know there's some circles in school. They won't put you because they feel you're a woman that you will not measure up. And you're like, I can do this. Yeah. But I'm happy that the narrative is changing. And every day we've seen females at get to the Supreme Court. And there's still many budding ones that are still coming. And they'll keep pushing the barriers. It's unfortunate, but that's what we're experiencing. Women have to work harder, twice as hard, to get to where men will get to comfortably.
We'll just take a quick break. But I think it's interesting that, talking about the law, the legal profession, usually we've talked about how the Gen Zs are usually the rebels and all of that. It's interesting that he's the most optimistic
About the law, yes.
about the law here.
Yes.
Of all of us. But we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll just, try and get some happy thoughts. What you've learned from the legal profession that has made you who you are today.
What a blast we had. I hope you had as much fun as we did, and I hope it spoke to you deeply. In terms of people, one of the biggest questions I get when I used to speak, do a lot of public speaking, was my career. How do I make a career decision? How do I find my purpose? What if what I am doing is not what I'm supposed to be doing in life? And I think that in this very fun, deep, wide-ranging, textured conversation, that came through. And I'm so happy and grateful for the guests who joined me for this conversation.